right. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. This is Mental Health Awareness podcast with Jennifer A. Whitaker for Jaws Coffee Chat. Today is Monday, February 5th, 2024. Can't believe we're in February already, but here we go. Our host with us today, of course, is Jennifer A. Whitaker, and I am Elizabeth Oberkirsch of Oh My VA Admin Services. We always like to give a special shout out and thanks to some great folks for replaying our shows on their platform. Zach Clayton of the PACT channel, Jay Stoyan of the Disability channel, and Lawrence Wingate of Wingate Studios. We definitely appreciate their support and participation. So be sure to like, share, and subscribe to our social media pages and groups and YouTube channel and, well, wherever it is you came to find out about us. I'm going to take it right on to Jennifer to get us started today. Take it away, Jennifer.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back. As many of you may know, if you saw our first episode of Mental Health Awareness that was in the last Monday of January of 2024, you would know we kind of start this year on a new perspective and a new topic related to those of us who have mental health conditions and struggle with them, but yet are not necessarily limited to us versus the other people who may also be disabled or have difficulties related to other conditions that may be medical or fall under another category. So last week, for those of you who didn't see it, we talked about CEAP. That is a program that, at least in the state of Texas or Houston area, provides assistance in paying utilities for those who are on supplemental security, food stamps, Medicaid, or other programs that are for those that are at the very minimal line of poverty and not at the upper end. For example, supplemental security only goes to those who have an income less than $914 in the state of Texas. So someone who is on SSI is very much struggling beyond someone who works a minimum wage job but is able to work. So that said, those are the programs that you have to be on for the one I said last week, that's CEAP, that's to cover your electricity and other utilities like gas and water. And I also told you last week about the ACP, Affordable Connectivity Program, that you can use to get essential internet, which in the Houston area, essential internet, or maybe it's Internet Essentials, but either way, that's the program that the government, through the Affordable Connectivity Program, partners with, which is a particular part of Xfinity, to cover internet services for $30 or less per month. So I was able to look between two different grades of internet. One costed $9.99 and the other costed $29 a month to have a little bit higher speed internet, but still the same Wi-Fi as what pretty much everybody else has. However, because both of those were under $30, it was free to me because it's covered by the ACP program as somebody who's on disability, disabled, and below a certain threshold of the poverty line. So those were the two we looked at last week. Because first of all, you need your utilities paid, and you need your internet service to go about many other steps of independence. However, both of those are ones you cannot get until you actually have the apartment or housing of your choice. And that one starts with working with somebody who can help with the transition. Like in my case, my mother signed my lease because her income would be approved. And so she paid the first couple of months of my rent, while after she paid the initial one, which was at the end of December, so it was a partial monthly rent, I started the process with the Galveston County GCACC.org. It's in Galveston, Texas, and it covers the rent or utilities, but I would say go with the rent side because that's the bigger one that is the hardest to afford for most of us, if even possible to afford. But that is the nonprofit that services the Houston, Texas area. However, there may be other programs like it, depending upon where you're located, that cover rental assistance. So I started this process by calling 211 to reach, in my case, the state of Texas helpline to find different resources for those who are going without, lacking some form or type of basic necessity. This one fell under housing. So call the 211 number in your state and ask them to connect you with somebody who can help you in spite of being disabled, on disability, Social Security income, to become independent financially. They will hook you up with an organization that will give you a case manager. That case manager will give you resources to acquire whatever it is you want that's defined as a necessity. So that's how I started my process to get with my case manager who told me about these. But then as I called the resources that she gave me, they would recommend I try this or that different nonprofit to reach out to. And so I ended up with, I don't know, 4 or 5 page long list of different nonprofits, organizations, programs, grants, all these different things that pay different bills for different people who are in need. Like one of them I ended up with was the food pantry that I find out they don't just give out food. They give out emergency food when you have nothing to eat. But their predominant way of helping feed families is to assist you in getting on SNAP, which is the modern day phrase for food stamps. Um, but that was one of the organizations that I found in this list. But my um, independence case manager did not give me that, but it was something I found through the different recommendations of people I spoke with that were on her list. So that was also how I came about the CEAP last week for internet. That's also how I went on to find out about Lifeline, that is where the federal government provides everybody who cannot afford a phone an option of either a fully covered by the program, the tax fund, telephone, like the ring in your house, in the wall, or a wireless.
Landline.
Yeah. Well, I don't know too many people know what that means anymore, but yeah, it's so out of date. But
Yeah.
yes, it's a landline, or you get the option of a quote wireless. But wireless does not mean the 90s meaning. It means a cell phone. And that's why I didn't want to use those phrases. But they give you an option, and I'm kind of more in the direction of the cell phone because you can take it everywhere and have your lifeline on you at all times. But the reality is you get to pick one or the other. So you can't have that landline to have security that if you lose power, you can still reach help, whether it's your family or it's the police or whatever, okay? Or to even call to report that your electric service is out, right? But that comes with its disadvantages that you can't have it when you're at your doctor's office or somewhere else that's not at your home. But you still have to, whatever is your reason, pick either the landline or the cell phone. but cell phone's called wireless, but it doesn't really mean wireless by 90s meaning. So that's an example of where you can go through the 211 and then with your independent case manager that helps you live independently, that the 211 sends you to find out what is the lifeline service they offer. Who do they tell you to go to? Based off, do you pick that it's a landline or a cell phone? But point being, that is a program where if you choose a cell phone, okay, here in Texas, they said it had to be an Android, it had to be through T-Mobile, but it was unlimited minutes, unlimited text, and unlimited data usage, only that's restricted to only 25 gigs of a high speed. As long as it's not high speed, it's unlimited. So that has its perks, because the old thing was you only got 25 or 250 minutes to talk on cell phones, and that's what people still believe with these free cell phones. That's why so many don't go for the free cell phones through the lifeline if they are disabled or on social security or other reasons that they are poverty stricken. That's not a result of their trade or profession of choice. However, there's other resources, but if you pick that certain one, you can get that free cell phone or that free landline, and the free landline comes with unlimited long distance minutes and other things that's more modern, that doesn't fit what most people hear. That's, oh, well, I don't want a free one because it only gets 250 minutes. No, none of that's true anymore. So that's to get you started with a cell phone or landline, so you have some form of connectivity with the world outside of your home. And that's part of basic things as well, even though so many people think, oh, a cell phone's not lifeline, it's not a mandatory thing. Well, how many bills do we now have to call on the phone with our debit card because they don't do paper anymore? So yes, in the government's eyes, it is a necessity. One or the other, but not both. Further to say, the next step is getting assistance with both your free phone and your free rent. So with rent, I went through the gcacc.org, but that only helps different counties around the Houston area. So you want to get started first. If you're living with family members or somewhere else and you want to get your own place to be independent, you need to first get that family member or somebody that's in the transitional housing realm of nonprofits to temporarily pay your rent on a place of your choice. And once you get that squared away for that particular transitional housing rent assistance to cover it, it'll secure the housing for you. An apartment or house or something of your choice is not part of the Section 8. People don't know that if you don't go through the Section 8, you can still get housing while being on disability or Social Security or other resources of income. So that said, you need the transitional program to take the initial responsibility, and once you move into that apartment or housing of your choice, and the transitional program is paying it for, say, 3 months or 6 months, your rent, then once you're in there, immediately start looking for rental assistance programs, going through the person that calling 211 connected you with that was an independent living counselor or case manager, they sometimes call them. And that case manager, if you reach out to about rental assistance, can tell you about programs in your area, like how I went through the gcacc.org that applies to the Houston area, various counties. And that's who's now paying my rent, even though it's almost double my monthly income. They didn't complain about the amount. They said, if that's your housing, they said you just have to agree that you can't move because your income won't be approved again for anything that's more than so many few $100s because it's low enough income that I'm on supplemental security as well. So I just agreed, well, yeah, the apartment that I found and my mom helped me transition into, use her income as the way to get approved. This is the one I want to basically spend decades at. I don't know how many decades, but lifetime practically. Um, and so they said, okay, if you can stay in that same one, we'll take over the rent. And just, they told me I had to, once I was approved, because I did my application January 1st, that then they would do this process, which is in action now, working with my landlord to get them to bill the nonprofit instead of billing me or my parents. And then my responsibility is to now sign a document saying that I agreed for them to do that. They have my authorization. And in March, they're going to pay the rent. And then my only other responsibility is to repeat the process January 1st again and again. So every year, they only approve you, even if it takes 3 months to get approved, they cover you for 12 months. So whatever is the timeline, whether yours is January, it's February, it's March, but that certain date of every year, you have to continue to do the process to renew your assistance program, the rental assistance program that you decide to work with among your research. But this so far has covered rental assistance, free cell phone, free Wi-Fi or internet, and talking about the food pantry that I figured out, at least locally, helps fill out food stamps. Now there's a way right there to start getting your food by making a plan to go to your food stamp location to get assistance in filling out your food stamp /SNAP application to get you food. So now I've given you 3 additional ones today, and there was the 2 from a week ago that I gave you. So that's quite a bit to get started with. A lot of these take weeks or a few months to get going. So you're going to be busy. I got everything except for my rent covered in the month of January. I mean, my first free cell phone, that was the first that was not through my parents, their family plan. I got that first apartment. I got that Wi-Fi 8 days after I moved in. It was covered through the ACP program. I mean, all these things I'm spelling out to all of y'all to put into your own life, finding those similar resources, using mine as at least an educational to give you some ideas of what's out there. Go through the 211 and the independent living counselor or case manager that they assign you within the company that is a contractor of your state to provide assistance and become an independent for the disabled, and find those certain programs that apply in your metro area, whatever major city you're around or whatever county you're in. If you're not in a city and you're in the country, the hills and valleys and the flatlands and all. But still, that whatever is your local area,
main hub.
Yeah, the main hub, that somewhere in there's these different resources, but it starts with calling 211 to get hooked up with an independent living counselor or case manager. That's who you then go to ask, hey, what do you recommend, who I reach out to, or program I can use to get fill in the blank. I did it for everything, for utility, for internet, for rent, for like every single thing I could think of that I needed. And in the end, the only thing I found out that is a necessity when it comes to at least renting a place, house or apartment, condo, whatever, is the rental insurance is the only thing that there is no program to cover. But also, it's one of the most affordable bills because, like, mine is only $30 a month, $30.50 or something. And that's with the idea that I have $40,000 worth of property inside the space. And so $30 is a lot easier to pay than, say, $1,600. So when I got all my others free because they're covered by all these programs, why am I going to worry about that $30 bill?
And
So
what was
in
that
the
for
end,
again? That was for the insurance?
rental insurance.
Rental insurance. Okay.
So, like, if someone decided, there's another program we'll talk about later on that helps the disabled people or those on Social Security that are seniors to buy a house. And when we get around to that, we'll talk about how there's everything from the homeowner's insurance to the flood insurance, at least if you're in Houston or Texas where we got flood issues. Somewhere else it can be a hurricane or fire insurance and all these other things based off where you are in the U.S., if even the U.S. But there's different types of insurance beyond just homeowners insurance that you need. And those would be ones great to ask about to see if they're covered. But most likely what I have seen is that insurance are the parts that are not covered. But if the house is covered by a grant when you buy it, you can ask if there's obviously the utility programs to pay the water, electricity, all that. That's the other expenses. But then you would have to ask, well, is there a program to cover the I don't know, the upkeep, or maybe to cover the flood prevention, flood damage, to cover the property taxes. Like in Texas, we have property taxes. We don't have income tax, but we have property tax. Okay, so in another state, which is pretty much almost any except for Texas, they have income tax. So
We have
property,
both. North Carolina has both property tax and income tax.
really? Man, and we were told Texas had it hit hard because we have something like 3 to 4% of your property value is your tax, property tax.
Yep.
Is it that bad in North Carolina?
Off the top of my head, I can't remember what the percent is, but yeah, it's pretty bad.
Man, y'all really slammed in.
Yep.
See, when people say we've got it bad in Texas, they're like, oh, no one likes Texas because they have to pay tax on their property.
Oh yeah, North Carolina has that too.
Well, at least we get the person with the income tax break because we don't have state income tax.
Yeah, we do.
That's what I'm saying. Maybe we're not the worst one of it.
Nope.
Making North Carolina sound bad, especially where North Carolina has such a higher cost of living than Texas. And like, I remember when I was a kid before my dad eventually moved to North Carolina, he was making a six-figure. Well, after spending his so many years in Raleigh, North Carolina, before he, passed away or became disabled in his last 3 or 4 years of his career, because he didn't live old enough to actually retire. But anyways, before then, he capped out at something like 70 or 80,000, and I'm like, but then his house, it was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, costed in the early 2000s. It costed, give or take, $250, compared to, so see, here's 70,000 income, $250 house, right? And it's 3-bedroom. Come back to Texas, and in the 90s, he was making a 6-figure and paid $120 for a 4 to 5 bed and bath. and was making 100 or more than 100. I mean, you see what I mean? Like, that's probably the attraction of Texas, because we have the lower cost of living, but the higher end of the income. And y'all are on the sandwich end. Pay less, but your housing and other necessities cost more.
It's out the roof here.
But that's why when I finished college, I was like, I'm getting the heck out of here. I'm going back to Texas.
Yeah. I've been here my whole life. That's all I've ever known.
Wow, this is eye-opening then, huh?
Yeah. Okay, honey, we're moving to Texas.
Well, Houston did not suffer in the pandemic or the well, it did to some degree, but not fully in all industries. Like the gas industry was doing well. Even you go to the Great Recession, they called it. That was in the 2000s. I was in Raleigh and I couldn't get a job with my bachelor's degree.
Yeah.
Yeah. Came to Texas during the Great Recession. Suddenly people hired me left and right, and I got my first job in accounting as a comptroller with a bachelor's degree and just still in college, finishing my master's. Most comptrollers have to already have a master's and a CPA license.
Yeah.
That's Texas for you.
Yeah.
And they were in the Great Recession, but just Houston's been an exemption for many economic hard times. So you have anything to say about any of the programs I've already mentioned for today's, get started projects of listeners?
No, it sounds very precise. You've done a lot of work in a very short period of time to get all that stuff for yourself. So it is doable. It's definitely something that people should look into.
They have to be disciplined and be planners.
Or have a checklist, at least have a
Yeah.
checklist, and then, just go by that. Even if you don't know how to plan it, you've listed it out pretty precisely a couple of times. Go back and listen to the recording again and make that list and make notes about each of the segments. And
Well,
you don't have to be the planner because Jennifer's already done it for you.
well, they do have to plan somewhere in their schedule of, say, a lot of doctor bills, not bills, doctor appointments, or going to the gym if they followed us on our other things about taking care of themselves using the Medicare Advantage plans, right?
Right.
That they would have a schedule full of at least stuff related to their conditions, between trying to take care of themselves by going to the gym, trying to take care of themselves by all these doctors. Okay, so now let's arrange somewhere in your schedule that there's time to take care of these steps and to collect the different resources you need, information you need. Because, say, some of them you have to have your birth certificate, and or certain bills that prove your address or prove that
Right.
you even have that bill. So there's different information they have to collect. So that's where it's, tasks they have to do, that it's not just what I laid out, but researching to find what is the information they need to apply to that certain program or get it, and collecting that information before then going to fill out the certain form to actually apply.
So it sounds like everything starts with calling 211.
It does. But you need to know what you're calling 211 to inquire about.
Right.
But see, how many people before watching this would have even known that there was a way to get these assistants?
Right.
I mean, they knew certain ones from last episode, and then now this episode, they know, I can, yes, it goes back to 211, but somewhere in the 211 that's in my state or city can help me with these bills too. And how many especially need rent assistance? Because that's, like, as far as I think, the largest bill any of us have that's defined as a necessity.
Yep. Got to have a roof over your head.
Oh, yeah, but I think it's the largest bill, not just that
It
It's
is.
one of the top and most important.
Definitely is.
So it's probably going to be the most popular one that if you already have that place where you reside, start with rent and your expenses will really reduce.
Right.
And then you may not even need some of the others, depending upon what your income and how much the rent coverage saves you from paying out of your pocket.
Right.
I'm getting this crick in my neck. Like spinning like crazy.
Bubblehead gin.
Gin the bobble.
Well, is that all you have for us today, you think?
I think we've given them quite a bit of information to get going.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a lot of steps adding to what we gave them a week ago, and where, like I said, my list grew to be 4 or 5 pages long. So it's a really long list of resources. It's a really long list of what the government defines as necessity that may not be your bare necessity. It's like bare necessity, people talk food, clothing, and shelter. Well, by blessing, the government sees beyond that as necessity. Like I said, the cell phone, the help with the internet. I mean, not just internet, the electric bill. Because how many times we see on our local news that there's certain areas of town that are really struggling financially, don't have a heater, or they don't have an AC. And we were talking about like in last summer's weather, where it was so many days or weeks over our records, right? Like in Houston, we were in the 3D, the three-dimensional or three-digit income temperature, like 100, 105, 110, 120. Like so much of the country was in that. And then there's that so many people we see on the news during that season didn't have ACs, didn't have heaters. You know, maybe they're in poverty and they got a house of some kind, but they don't have the funds to even have installed some kind of AC or whatever, right?
Right.
So that's where these programs come in, because those people, yes, they may already have shelter and not have to worry because maybe it's a paid off house or something else they inherited, I don't know. But they can actually have air conditioner and heater with some of these programs that could be those same people that are better off when hopefully it won't happen again. But if we have another big heat wave that's 90 days long.
Yep.
And
Exactly.
how many of them would those certain people, they already have certain things, but they need that. And that would save them on so many health issues because they're not constantly overheating to end up in the emergency room of dehydration or hyperthermia. As opposed, a lot of people know hypothermia, right?
Right.
But how many know hyperthermia? Like the people in the Texas 120 heat that were homeless on the streets, and the remember the heat of the cement, and
Mm-hmm.
that's no AC or anything, or no shoes between their feet and that. They're cooking.
Mm-hmm.
And so those are just simple ones that certain people may just need this one or few and don't need those others, and life would be so much better quality, such better health, and so many things. That's why the government defines it as a necessity, even though it's not what in education we defined as bare necessity.
Yep. All right. Well, do you have any other announcements of things that are going on outside of your getting yourself independent living situation set up?
Well, you know, the interesting announcement I had, how many people have heard of RAD, the self defense program? You haven't heard of
Not
it?
me. Not me. Mm-mm.
So it's actually a free program that's partnered with different organizations that are the trainers, and you know they're credentialed, they have certificates, degrees, whatever. But different police forces, whether it's your county sheriff, your city police, state troopers, all kinds of different law enforcement, partner with private sector providers to provide free self-defense lessons to the community that that particular police department serves, that city, that county, that state. And so many of us, we talk about the pandemic, right? You and I, especially EJ, the pandemic, and where crime is getting to be normal. I mean, even massive shootings are getting to be normal. It's like, oh, that's, yeah, I've heard that so many times, don't even care about it anymore. We laugh, but in reality, it's more need for whoever is your local government that you as a female, I'm sorry, men, this program's not available for men, but the females that are listening, or that you may refer this way, whether it's your sister, your mother, any female you care about, or yourself, especially those who are disabled and often do not have the ability, or whether it's financially or it's health, because say they're in a wheelchair or whatever, even they can get these classes as long as you register in time to get a slot with your local law enforcement to learn self-defense. Because especially the disabled community, whether it's physical, mental, any kind of disability, those tend to be bigger targets by criminals. Like somebody, my therapist, she has, I forget if it's MS or what, but she has a certain condition that makes it where she cannot walk. And so she kind of like hops along. I mean, so she makes do with what she has. And yes, she's able to work full time and everything, so she's not, quote, disabled. But she's been hurt by different crimes, a victim of it because of the fact that she can't run, she can't walk, so she's more vulnerable. And because of cases like that, or others have to in my history, then the RAD, self-defense classes that police, sheriffs, and other law enforcement hold are specifically more in favor of giving the spots that are open to those who are disabled and more vulnerable to being a target. And that's not necessarily, say, independence versus a program I found out about. One lady I actually met, and she may be one of our partners, but the program is more important than the business. The safety of our listeners and those whom the listeners know is a bigger topic than this specific lady's organization.
Right.
And so I want to leave these listeners with some hope of safety, because of how many times, especially if we have paranoia or something, we are more vulnerable and the police don't believe us. But at least with self-defense, you learn the protection part, but you don't learn the attack part. And so you're not likely, say if you took martial arts, to accidentally attack somebody because you thought they were going to hurt you. No, that's martial arts. That's not self-defense. Right. Self-defense only teaches you the defense mode, not the offense.
So one more thing for everybody to look into.
Yeah, well, their safety is, I mean, how many times we hear from police or whoever else, their safety comes first.
Yep.
They can't get their housing, they can't get their electricity covered, they can't get any of this covered if they are not alive. That's and do not survive the consistent growing trauma of modern day from these peaks of massive shooting, and not just shootings, and then other crimes. I mean, let's preserve their life and their safety for them to be able to go about these independence that they want. And once they are independent, if someone tries to come in that door, in that apartment they get, or that house they get or something, right? They can then, take these certain precautions of escaping. Like one I learned, this, that somebody has their hands around my neck and I grab them from below and jerk them up.
Yeah.
Okay, that's in Jitsu. That's the one my trainer at my Lifetime gym teaches me. But that's getting escape from. It's not going to attack.
Right.
So those are different things that once we're independent, we have that place. Our family's not in the same household. Now what? Well,
Yep.
there's your security, there's your livelihood, there's your safety.
Yep.
And well, by blessing, the government sees your safety as a necessity, which is why they have the RAD program with pretty much all of the U.S. different police systems.
Yep.
So I think we got them safety, and now we've got them some information for livelihood. The jensbooksandmore.com is being
Transformed.
transitioned
Transformed.
a bookstore and other kind of retail store. And if you want to find other podcasts we have, be sure to follow us on social media, or conveniently, you can go to jawscoffeechat.com, which is the name of our show. Just add the .com, JAWS coffeechat.com. And that is now its own website where you can find so many different podcasts that we've done in one place, and even ways to get involved as a speaker and so much more.
All right. Well, that has just been a wealth of information today. So be sure to replay our episodes. Like I said, we have a few places, not only our YouTube channel, but Zach Clayton of the PAC channel replays it, Jay Stoyan of the Disability channel, and Lawrence Wingate of Wingate's TV. They all are helping us and replaying our shows on their platform. So find us anywhere you can. And again, check out our website and be sure to like, subscribe, and share it with others so that we get the word out so that others know this wealth of information that Jennifer has shared. Again, this has been Mental Health Awareness with JAWS Coffee Chat and Jennifer A. Whitaker. We air weekly on Mondays, 2:30 p.m. Central Time, 3:30 Eastern Time. And be sure to log in each week, and we'd love to hear your information. Any comments you have in the chat and description is below with a lot of the information that we just mentioned. So until next time, we wish you a productive and enjoyable week. Bye, and take care, everybody.